Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keane from the YouTube channel Keane Vlogs, and today I watched a YouTuber by the name of Boredgeek. And Boredgeek declares that Onision is sick. He says that he's sick because he watched a video where Onision was playing a character dressed up in a bat suit and told a story about a man who was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, and at the end, Onision says it's a joke, what he was doing. I could see how some people might think that that's not the funniest of jokes that Onision's ever done. I can understand how for some people that might come off very intense, very hardcore. I can understand also why when people watch South Park and they see that almost every single episode South Park murders children. One of those children who seems to get murdered all the time is named Kenny. That poor little Kenny. I've seen that young man thrown into a wood chipper before. I've seen him ran over by a semi-truck. I've seen pianos dropped out of windows on his head. Poor Kenny, he just can't make it through one single episode without being completely and utterly annihilated by either his friends or the town folk or by some horrific accident. But for some reason, people continue to watch the episodes because they find South Park funny. I remember watching an episode where they took one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins is someone I have a great deal of respect for. Someone that I find to be one of the most intelligent, brightest human beings on the planet today that exist. They took the man and they put him in a homoerotic episode where he was actually having sexual intercourse with another man named Mr. Garrison. Okay. Now, a lot of people out there laughed their ass off. They thought it was funny. I would have never seen Richard Dawkins in that light before. I would have never thought of that man laying in a bed with Mr. Garrison smoking a cigarette after some hot homosexual sex. But they did it. South Park did it. So, sense of humors are kind of odd for sure. One of the most brilliant comedians of all times, who has passed away, George Carlin. George Carlin has done jokes about suicide, political correctness, religion. He actually did a skit where he talks about Joe Pesci. He says that Joe Pesci is the god worth praying to because Joe Pesci gets shit done. George Carlin mentioned that he had a neighbor who was giving him fucking problems and had a barking dog that would never shut up. But one prayer to Joe Pesci, and Joe Pesci fixed the problem with a fucking baseball bat. If you were to really analyze the joke, you would understand that George Carlin is saying in the joke that a man named Joe Pesci took a baseball bat, a weapon, went over to the neighbor's house, pounded the shit out of him as well as the barking dog, and that settled the problem. Now, most people would not think that pounding a dog with a baseball bat or a neighbor would be a funny thing, unless you really hate your damn neighbor. Then some people might see where that might be open to interpretation. Mr. George Carlin also said that anything could be made funny, depending on the way you say it or the way you perform it. Like, for instance, he said to his audience once, he said, you can make anything funny, and I'll give you an example. You can make rape funny. Now, the whole audience just kind of freaked out when he said that. And he said, no, listen. He said, imagine Elmer Fudd raping Bugs Bunny. And the audience fucking lost their mind. So, in a sense, a lot of things that are very, very passionate to people, things that are very important to people, have been used in a form for sense of humor's sake. Andrew Dice Clay took something that was very sacred, such as children's fairy tales and rhymes, and made poetry out of it on his live shows. I'll give you an example. He said, "Three blind mice, where the fuck do they go? Hickory dickory dock, the bitch was sucking my cock, the clock struck 2, I dropped my goo, and I dropped the bitch off in the next block." He took such children's stories as, "There was a little old lady that lived in a shoe, she had so many fucking kids, her uterus fell out." Now, most people wouldn't think that that's very funny, but some people do. Andrew Dice Clay was one of the most popular comedians of his times. And if you think that Andrew Dice Clay was hardcore, watch Gilbert Godfrey. This guy was fucking wild. There's a comedian nowadays who is called Louis C.K. C.K. Louis C.K., something like that. And he actually told a joke about how there was a little kid that was aggravating the shit out of his daughter and how badly he wanted to kick the shit out of that kid. He's also told jokes about how he hates deers and would love to slaughter them and have sex with someone with AIDS and then have sex with the deer just to kill it with the disease of AIDS. Louis C.K. has jokes that would blow Onision out of the water in hardcore intensity. He also, you said that you didn't like the video by Onision that he did about the soldier. Louis C.K. said that he was on a plane once and he could have given an American soldier a seat, but he chose not to. He said, "Why should I get up and give my seat over?" There's plenty of more context to the joke, but you can see it for yourself. So, Boredgeek, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that I guess sometimes you got to have a sense of humor. Sometimes you got to understand that comedians thrive on controversy. They thrive on being humorous. Now, there's some people out there who think that they're comedians and they're not very funny. They do horrible, terrible ass things that only is funny for them and their little group of assholes. But I think if you really watch the mass load of Onision videos, you will see that this is a man who is very funny, a man who's very interesting, very intelligent. And if there's a couple videos you don't find funny, fine. But I think it goes a little bit too far to say that the guy's fucking sick. I mean, sick like in mentally ill. I mean, basically, if that's true, if you actually believe that Onision is mentally ill, that he's sick, then in a way, you making a video mocking him and making fun of him means that you're making fun of people who you think is mentally ill and sick. And it looks like you got 45 thumbs up for making fun of a man claiming that he's mentally ill and sick. But you say he shouldn't make fun of soldiers, but it's okay for you to make fun of the mentally ill. Okay. I guess our sense of humors are different, or weird. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to Brett Keane from the YouTube channel.